Good afternoon, my handsome and beautiful people. The federal police are out on the streets again. Yesterday, the federal police were out on the streets on the tail of the devil of Bolsonaristas. And today, again, the federal police are out on the streets on the tail of the devil of Bolsonaristas again. But before I even get to that subject, let me tell you something. Yes, the person responsible for the political campaign there for Bolsonaro, for Flávio Bolsonaro, bought a mansion worth more than 14 million reais. And the guy had declared on his income tax a salary that wasn't enough to buy that house. And Flávio Bolsonaro is using that house. Is it, Andre? Yes. What does it look like, Andre? It seems like he's a front man. It seems like he's a front man for a new mansion that the Bolsonaro family bought. Guys, and look, it's not just this mansion. There's another mansion too. Oh my God, what shameless people. This one here, this is Jose Vicente Santini Santos. And he bought this house with financed. And guess who financed it for him? BRB, the bank that's at the center of the Daniel Vorcaro mafia fraud scandal. Was it Vorcaro who paid for this house? Guys, who authorized the loan, Andre? Paulo Henrique, who is in jail, former president of BRB, political ally of Ibanez Rocha, a Bolsonaro supporter, former governor of the federal district. The guy would have to have an income of almost 500,000 reais a month to be able to finance a house worth almost 15 million reais. And he was a salaried employee. He was an advisor there to Flávio. He didn't have that income. So this right here, look, is going to become the subject of an investigation. Federal Congressman Lindenberg Farias is taking action, and soon he will file a complaint about this situation right here. The suspicion, what does this look like? That this Jose is a front man for Flávio Bolsonaro to purchase a house financed by BRB. Is he at the center of the storm around Daniel Vorcaro's mafia? The mortgage payment for the house is nearly 130,000 reais. Where is he getting it from? Where is this money coming from? Or where was it coming from? Let's watch Congressman Lindenberg Farias explain a few more things about this. Go ahead and hit the like button. It's really important. Wow, these people sure love mansions, don't they?
From the Flávio Bolsonaro scandal. He's using a mansion in Lago Sul as his campaign headquarters, which was bought for 14.5 million in the name of his campaign coordinator, Jose Vicente Santini. Now, here's the detail. He paid 4 million with 10.5 million financed by BRB. Just like Flávio Bolsonaro's mansion, it was financed by BRB. Now, here's the detail. Who was the president of BRB at the time? Paulo Henrique Costa, who is in jail at Papura for involvement and direct ties to Vorcaro. He was part of Vorcaro's gang. The question everyone wants to know is there Vorcaro's money involved in the purchase of this house, which is your campaign HQ, Flávio Bolsonaro? Look, his campaign coordinator, Jose Vicente Santini, took out a loan of 10.5 million and he has to pay 128,000 every month. For someone to be able to get a loan like that, they need to have a salary, an income of 429,000. But he had a public position with a salary of just over 20,000 reais. It's scandalous, but it's in the Bolsonaro family's DNA. They love mansions. Even Eduardo Bolsonaro with his mansion. Over there in the United States, Eduardo Bolsonaro, who kept Vorcaro's money, went there to the Ravengate Fund, and they had already bought 51 properties with cash. That's the truth. The Bolsonaro family's scandal was 51 properties bought with cash. It's money from corruption. Flávio Bolsonaro has to explain himself. He has to explain the origin of the money used to buy that mansion,
which is also his campaign headquarters in Lago Sul.
Yeah, guys, it's a lot of mansions, a lot of properties, a lot going on, right? To me, this looks like a money laundering scheme using frontmen. Right, Andre? Yeah. And that's not all. Another mansion showed up besides this one. The player Rishon from the Brazilian national team said he bought a mansion in Angra dos Reis. He paid millions and millions of reais for that mansion. Then suddenly a guy showed up saying he owned the mansion together with whom? With Flávio Bolsonaro there in Angra dos Reis, where Bolsonaro has a house. And he filed a lawsuit claiming the right to the house. And today's Richard says that he's in a legal battle over a house he bought and paid for, where this friend of Flávio, together with Flávio, is trying to take his mansion. Andrea Gonçalves, yeah, wherever there's a scheme, there's Flávio. Whoa, 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 look here, Richard. Richardson exposes a disagreement with Flávio Bolsonaro over a mansion. They took it from me. The case came to light through a post by the real estate lawyer Ana Paula Zutut. She said that Thomas Wheeler, the lawyer of Senator Flávio Bolsonaro, and maybe Flávio himself, bought the mansion together because Flávio joined the dispute with the lawyer, whose property had been acquired by Richard Richardson. The striker confirmed the mess when commenting on the post. I really spent around 10 million on the house. What does this look like here? That the lawyer is a frontman for Flávio Bolsonaro, because Richard himself and his lawyer, who works in real estate, said that the lawyer is not alone, that Flávio is with him. So it seems like the lawyer is more of a front man for Flávio in the purchase of this house, which had already been bought by the player there, Richard Lambson. How does that work, guys? Richardson, from Richard, the player from the Brazilian national team. Consider this situation. You might say it's just a coincidence, but that's too many coincidences for one person. Don't you agree? For me, the first one was paid with Daniel, with money from Vorcaro's money. This one too maybe was paid with Vorcaro's money. But the one who paid was the player, but is the player losing the house, guys? So things are getting heated. Congressman Rogerio Correa talked a bit about this here. Pay attention, pay attention.
Pay attention. Nothing like one day after another, the report about Flávio Bolsonaro's mansion came up again. Funny, isn't it? They filed a complaint against me, the PL, in the Ethics Council because I reported a mansion over in Angra dos Reis that Flávio Bolsonaro had taken from Richarlos. That's old news. Richarlos, known as the Pigeon, is a talented Brazilian soccer player. Besides the Ethics Council, Flávio Bolsonaro himself also filed a lawsuit against me in court. Now, Richarlos proves that he has a legal issue and that he spent 10 million and that this house was simply given to Flávio Bolsonaro and the Bolsonaro family, something that belonged to him. And it also involves other people, like Alencar da Silveira Jr., who is also a partner. He had a stake in the property and suffered a loss. It was proven once again that when I said there was nothing fake or any lies, it was true. In fact, do you know who signed these lawsuits against me? A partner of the Cavalcantes. And today, another federal police action appears again against the partners, who kept money in a suitcase and now money in books. Huh, folks? We have to see if he didn't do that with the Holy Bible too. Keep your eyes open. I was right. Nothing like one day after another accusation has appeared again.
That's right. It's quite a coincidence, isn't it? Everything involves Flávio Bolsonaro. He sure likes mansions, doesn't he? Especially if it's, money laundering and using a front man, because the money comes from stealing. Daniel Vuvorcaro, you know it, right? Oh, the federal police are out on the streets, my dear and my legend. In Rio de Janeiro, the federal police arrest Pastor Márcio Poncio. Of course, there had to be a pastor involved. Bachelá, former president of the Lege, and Adilchinho are already under arrest. On Thursday morning, the federal police launched the 5th phase of Operation Unha e Carne to investigate evidence of money laundering committed by the boss of the new leadership of Jogo do Bicho. and possible connections of the scheme with members of the executive and legislative branches of Rio de Janeiro. This is part of that same mafia. Yeah, from Flávio Bolsonaro's allies. I have to say it because it's true. Rodrigo Bacelar, this one here, is he already in jail? He was a state representative, president of the Legislative Assembly of Rio de Janeiro, who had already received the Bolsonaro family's blessing to succeed Claudio Castro. Claudio Castro is already removed from office and ineligible, and he'll soon be in jail. This one is already an inmate. He's from Flávio Bolsonaro's political group in Rio de Janeiro. Put it there, Rodrigo Bacelar and Flávio Bolsonaro. You'll see them together at several events. He's already been arrested along with T.H. Joyas, along with 2 secretaries appointed by Flávio Bolsonaro. They're in the government of former Claudio Castro. So things are closing in, and now they've caught the pastor. I've always told you, you need to have a religious entity because it helps launder money, and you don't pay taxes. You don't pay any taxes yet because of tax immunity for religious temples. So they found the pastor here now who was arrested today. What's the scheme, Andrea Gonçalves? Corruption. Corruption, they stole, they squandered the public assets of Rio de Janeiro during Claudio Castro's government. Involvement with the Jogo do Bicho militia and Comando Vermelho. Yeah, they were passing confidential information to the Comando Vermelho and all that. It's all right here, look. And to me, this is getting closer every day to the boss, Claudio Castro, former governor of Rio de Janeiro, and even to Flávio Bolsonaro. Since they're from the same political group, or was Flávio just caught up in all this and didn't know anything? Was he innocent? Really? My grandmother used to say, my daughter, if you get tangled up, you'll stay tangled for life. So I don't know, huh? Actually, Henrique Vieira talked about this pastor who was arrested. Look, check out Henrique Vieira's comment here. He's also from Rio de Janeiro.
Pastor Marcio Poncho arrested. Another pastor arrested. Another extremely wealthy pastor involved in a corruption scheme. It's not about the people's faith. It's not about the many humble and hardworking pastoral leaders with genuine faith serving others. That being said, it's shocking what happens in our country. The arrest of Marcio Poncho today is related to a federal police investigation into the cigarette mafia, the animal game, and the payment of bribes to public officials. We want to follow and understand exactly what this pastor's involvement is in this scheme. But I want to go beyond that because the scandals involving extremely wealthy pastoral leaders just keep piling up. The history of Edir Macedo, the wealth of Silas Malafaia, the issue with André Valadão's Clava Forte Bank, and now Marcio Poncho and so many others. It becomes more and more evident that these are people who are using and abusing the church, the pulpit, and the faith of our people. I ask that you understand me. It's not about faith. It's not about the work of the churches. I was raised in the church. Faith is something legitimate, organic, and sincere in my life. But what happens in this country, we can't be afraid to name it. There are pastoral leaders building economic and business empires with mansions, private jets, helicopters, luxury, and extravagance. And then they talk about God, country, and family, and then they go and claim to uphold Christian morality. Then they go there and politicize the pulpit, hijacking people's faith and fueling a culture of hate. It's money, it's wealth, it's power, it's mansions, it's private jets, it's helicopters. It's all very strange when the gospel is simple. It's love for your neighbor, it's sharing bread, it's practicing mercy, it's a sense of justice, it's reaching out, it's serving people. I look at this with concern from the perspective of the gospel and faith, but also from the perspective of democracy. When churches are used for very dangerous schemes of ostentation and luxury, and by all indications, even corruption, how long will they keep using God's name in vain? Fraternal embrace?
Wow. Pastor Henrique Vieira said it all. Unfortunately, folks, that's what's happening. Where there's a criminal organization moving a lot of money, there will always be a religious leader to help launder that money using religious institutions, unfortunately. This pastor even has a jet. He has a private jet. It reminded me of Silas Malafaya. He has everything, you know? Like that. So like he was even known as the tobacco pastor because he had a factory. He has a cigarette factory. Just think about the situation. My God, how is that possible, people? And people who are deceived and fooled and tricked by this kind of person. And speaking of pastors like that, we can't forget yesterday, the federal police operation. The federal police suspects a fake deed was used to justify $470,000 linked to Sóstenes. The federal police is investigating whether allies of federal Congressman Sóstenes Cavalcanti forged documents related to the sale of a property to try to justify the origin of almost $470,000 found in cash at the congressman's house in December 2025. What's going on, Andrea Gonçalves? This is a new fact that we didn't know about. The police have strong evidence that it's true. Apresentada. The story about the property that the partner of Mr. Descavalcanti said he had sold, and that's why he had about $470,000 at home, is false. There isn't even any property, let alone one that was sold. Does partner Descavalcanti think that the federal police are fools? I wonder if he judges the police by his own standards. Why is that? Does he think he could present a situation like this and the federal police wouldn't look into it thoroughly? My dear, by all indications, the situation is much deeper and more serious than we imagine when it comes to the leader of the PL, Pastor Socio Descavalcanti. And I dare say this is just the tip of the iceberg. And when the police start pulling, the whole dirty hen house will be exposed. You can wait and see. Partner Descavalcanti is just more of the same and very little from these Bolsonaristas. Unfortunately, that's the situation. And I don't know if you saw it. I even showed it to you here. I think it's here. Here, look. They hid money inside a fake book. Got it? They put the fake book there, and inside the book, actually, there was hidden money. And the police carried out a new operation yesterday. And what is the suspicion? That they embezzled money from the legislative allowance funds, almost reaching nearly 29 million at the beginning of the investigation. And for that, they put the companies there, as I always tell you, to divert, to try to hide the money trail, putting in front men, and the scheme is serious. And from what everything indicates, the situation of the Descavalcanti partners is only getting more complicated. The congressman here, the congressman talked about this situation here. Look, my dear Glauber Braga, look here, pay attention.
The leader of the PL is all tangled up. Operation Weak Branch 2. Mr. Socio Descavalcanti said that the more than 400,000 reais in his closet came from selling property. And then the federal police went to look for the deed. It didn't exist. So they formalized it. They drew up the deed after the operation. Then they simulate. So that's a possibility, a consortium operation, buying and selling a house in Minas Gerais. But now, Mr. Tiago de Paula, who would be the buyer, doesn't have any record of a withdrawal made by him during the period of the operation. Information that comes to light today. Just imagine, you sign a contract in Minas Gerais. After that, the money is delivered in Minas Gerais. It goes into a car. It comes to Brasília, then go into the PL leader's closet, stay there. So the PL leader said that the money was still in his closet because he forgot to deposit it. After that, you ask, where's the deed? There isn't one. It's made after the operation. Where's the withdrawn money? The potential buyer of the property also doesn't have any record of a withdrawal related to this money. 3, to the Internal Affairs Department, so that the leader of the PL, Mr. Sóstenes Cavalcanti, is properly held accountable for this scandal. There isn't any information given by him that is even remotely consistent. It's essential that he answers for his actions. Where is this money from? Is it from the quota? Is it from the secret budget? Is it from his connections with Malafaia? The leader of the PL has to explain himself. The leader of the PL is completely tangled up.
He's tangled up, and the more he tries to explain, the worse the situation gets. The situation is ugly, you know? And soon, you know, it might be the knock, knock, knock of the federal police, you never know, coming to arrest Sóstenes Cavalcanti. The scheme is serious, hiding money inside fake books. Let's see what happens. We want justice, right? And Socio Cavalcanti, he's the typical fake moralist. Because he loves to point fingers at others, doesn't he? He even tried to create a smokescreen before this federal police operation, saying he sent a document to the Trump administration to talk about PT's involvement with the PCC, blah, blah, blah. And right after that, his own house falls apart. He's the one who has to explain this whole situation, and he doesn't explain anything. And when he tried to explain, saying the 470,000 was from a property, he didn't even have any documents for that property. There wasn't even, if you think about it, maybe the property didn't even exist. They made up this whole fake situation to try to fool the federal police. But the federal police aren't stupid, right, guys? The federal police aren't fools. So let's be patient, right? And we can't forget to mention Flavio's situation here as well. Flávio Bolsonaro, who criticized Paulo Figueiredo's misogynistic and sexist remarks. But Paulo Figueiredo said that it was all arranged. It was all a setup. I need to show this here because we can't ignore it. We have to talk about this again because it's very important, where the pastor here, Tony De Paula, talks about this shamelessness.
You know, when a buddy, a friend of yours, does something stupid, says something dumb, and then you call him and say, man, what did you say? And now then the friend says, man, look, I said what I said. You just have to say you don't agree, throw me under the bus, but I already said it anyway. And that's what we think. But since you can't say it, you can't agree with me, just disavow me, that's it. Easy, pronto. Then you go, after you've already agreed with this friend and you're going to disavow him. That's pretty much what Flávio Bolsonaro did to Paulo Figueiredo. Paulo Figueiredo, who said that women don't know how to vote, especially single women. At least married women vote a little better because they listen to their husbands. Watch this video of Paulo Figueiredo saying that he arranged everything with Flávio Bolsonaro.
By the way, yesterday I suggested that to him. I said, make lemonade out of lemons. Publicly disavow me. If anyone asks, don't hesitate to disavow me. Say I'm not part of your campaign, that you disagree with me, and that women vote so well they'll choose you. That's a strong political speech. Why?
All set. Every day it gets harder to believe in Flávio Bolsonaro. It gets harder and harder to believe when he says he didn't do it, that he doesn't think that way, that it's not really like that. And right after, we find out that it really was like that. Now he said that the video Michelle shared of the little boy talking about the astronaut party in Borcado has nothing to do with it. Those orgy parties that Borcado used to have with some politicians, people from the justice system, and top businessmen from Brasilia. She shared it, and now Flávio said, I never took part in any parties, any orgies, none at all. Well, yeah. I hope not.
That's right, my dear, my dear. Everything was staged. Even that situation where Flávio Bolsonaro criticized Paulo Figueiredo's misogyny and machismo was arranged. It was staged. These people are such scumbags, right? No, I'm sorry, but there's just no way, for God's sake. Now, about Sóstenes, the congressman, Leonel Reid said something here. Pay attention. Go ahead and click the button.
They found money in the books of Bolsonaro's friends because they don't like to read, do they? Especially Bolsonaro, who still hasn't managed to reduce his sentence because he hasn't read any books. But they're finding money inside the PL's books. Today, there was a federal police operation, Rent a Car, where thousands of reais were seized from contacts linked to Sóstenes. Cavalcanti, who is the leader of the PL in the Senate, the leader of Bolsonarism in the Senate, and who had already been the target of a search and seizure where 400,000 reais in cash were found inside his property. And now a new phase of the federal police operation has seized thousands of reais from several contacts of Sóstenes Cavalcanti. And there, some of the money was found inside a book. Now we know what books are used for by the Bolsonaro family and the PL. But it's also interesting for us to notice that at the same time, up until today, Sóstenes, the guy with the wine sommelier mouth, right? He has a sommelier's mouth, a soft mouth that's tough for a pacifier, right? He used a pacifier a lot as a kid and ended up with that mouth, poor guy. But anyway, him trying to explain himself in that way of his that doesn't fool anyone, right? He can't even fool those closest to him. Bolsonaro, he said that this amount came from a property he had sold. And we'll see that the contract he presents was made after the federal police operation. So he had the money at home and then closed the contract. But for the PL, nothing happens. There's no problem with the PL leader in the Senate being involved in a case like this that clearly shows signs of corruption. There's no problem at all. It doesn't matter if Michel and Bolsonaro tell Valdemar da Costa Neto, as reported in the press today, that soon more scandals will ruin Flávio Bolsonaro's campaign. For the PL, everything is fine. Everything is legitimate, right? People keep supporting Flávio Bolsonaro, including his campaign leader and coordinator, Mr. José Vicente. Mr. José Vicente, who held an important position in the Bolsonaro government in 2022. He amassed a fortune in real estate, and the Bolsonaro family, you know, the people around them have this habit, right, of buying properties, usually paying in cash. Just coincidences, right? I'd like to understand how someone who works in public service can own so many million-dollar properties, including yours. José Vicente just bought a mansion very close to the other mansion, also owned by Flávio Bolsonaro, a 14 million mansion. A mansion worth 14 million reais in Lago Sul, almost next door to Flávio Bolsonaro's mansion, which cost 15 million reais. And he managed to buy it for 6 million and also paid in cash. The miracle, right, of the senator paying for a mansion worth 6 million reais in cash. I want someone to explain to me how that calculation is done. And if that's possible, well, you're José Vicente, who is the coordinator of Flávio Bolsonaro's campaign, just bought a property now for 14 million, and since 2022, he has only bought properties. Okay, guys, his income isn't 23 million reais in real estate. These are the people who want to govern our country, the people of morality, the people against corruption, the people who multiply financial resources. Even as public servants, having resources strictly limited by the ceiling, it's constitutional, but for them, that doesn't exist. All they do is attack. At the end of the 6x-1 shift, Davi Alcolumbre, a supporter of Bolsonaro, blocked the end of the 6x-1 schedule from 44 hours a week to 40 hours a week. He's there, sitting comfortably, while pushing forward Rogério Marinho's bill, which is the 7x-0 schedule. So the Bolsonaro supporters want to approve the 7x-0 schedule. You work by the hour, you don't get a day off during the week, you don't have guaranteed vacation, you don't get a 13th salary, there's no calculation for minimum wage, you get paid for the day worked, just for the hour worked there. It's obvious that the agreement will be precarious and the worker gets screwed. Meanwhile, President Lula's project to end the 6x1 work schedule and reduce the work week from 44 to 40 hours is stuck in the Senate because the Bolsonaristas, including Sóstenes Cavalcanti, aren't making any progress. They want not only to have a 7x0 work schedule, but also to extend the work week from 52 up to 60 hours. This is the Bolsonarista project, so the people need to know about it and hold them accountable. And keep demanding that the Senate approve the end of the 6x1 schedule, reduce the work week to 40 hours, and bring at least a minimum of dignity to the Brazilian people. Because besides stealing, they want to destroy the economy by exploiting the labor of Brazilian men and women. Thank you very much.
That's right, Congressman. And yesterday, there were several demonstrations at the federal Senate putting pressure on Davi Alcolumbre. Exactly, for him to push forward the processing of the 6x1 shift PEC is absurd. He doesn't even put it up for processing, not even to say whether to approve or disapprove, but he doesn't even let it move forward. Davi Alcolumbre is really acting like an enemy of the people. He should move the proposal to end the 6-on-1 off schedule forward now. And Congressman Bulos was there yesterday and said a little something. Let's listen to what he said.
In the last few days of sessions, I didn't speak with President Davi Alcolumbre. I even thought he might be at the hearing today to discuss the topic. Now, President Lula's government's position is that this matter needs to be voted on. The end of the 6x-1 schedule needs to be voted on. It has to move forward. Yeah, it's because the Brazilian people, the Brazilian workers, have the right to know who is against and who is in favor. It's a proposal with a broad social impact. Today, it's the main topic of public debate, of political debate in our country. Minister Paulo Pereira here, congratulations on your action.
Brilliant intervention.
And the Brazilian people are following along. I think it's a sign of respect for the workers, both men and women of this country. Let it proceed. Those who are against it, vote against it, state your reasons. That's part of democracy. Those who are in favor, vote in favor. Now, blocking a proceeding doesn't seem like the best way to go, does it? I want to make this appeal here, just like I did at the public hearing. But I want to make this appeal to President Davi Alcolumbre and to the entire Senate Board of Directors so that they can move it forward and send it to the CCJ. It's so that this debate can continue in Brazilian society. Yes, this is important for the worker. This is important for the country. This agenda is not simply an agenda of President Lula's government. This is an agenda for Brazil, for Brazilian workers. It's not just the governments. It's not the legislatures. It's an agenda that came from Brazilian society as a cry for freedom, a cry against exhaustion. And we will keep working so that it gets voted on as soon as possible.
That's right. So we realize that Davi Alcolumbre is the one holding back this agenda, so it doesn't even move forward. And all of this, he switched sides. After the first operation happened, regarding Daniel Volcaro, in the second attempt at a plea bargain, said that he paid him a bribe amounting to 155 million reais, Malu Gaspar said. He said that he went to Lula to ask for Lula's protection, and Lula said he wouldn't interfere. At the federal police, he couldn't do that, and anyone involved would be held responsible. Then after that, it was over. He put Lula's veto on the reduction of the sentencing guidelines. The veto was overturned and the sentencing guidelines became law. The only thing that didn't happen was reducing sentences for the coup plotters, since the Supreme Court was called and a direct action of unconstitutionality suspended the law. The trial will still occur this year in the Supreme Court, which will rule on the law's validity. He overturned the veto on sentencing calculation. He rejected, with his scheming there, with all the maneuvering in the Senate, the approval of the person nominated by Lula for the position of federal Supreme Court Justice. In place of Luis Barroso, Jorge Messias, he approved a time bomb agenda in the federal Senate, creating a lot of expenses for Lula's government without a fully unconditional funding source. And now he's holding back so the constitutional amendment proposal doesn't even move forward. The constitutional amendment proposal that guarantees you 2 days off in a 5-day work week without a salary reduction has already been approved in the Chamber of Deputies. He's holding back because very possibly he wants Lula to create some. He tries to interfere with the police to protect him, and Lula said he won't do that. This is revenge. This is Davi Alcolumbre's sabotage. Unfortunately, that's it. Davi Alcolumbre is guaranteed another 4 years of his term. He won't run in the elections now in October, so he's calm. He doesn't need the people's vote now in October. He still has another 4 years in office. He doesn't care at all. He's just trying to see if he's protected. That's what's happening, unfortunately. Put this up. End the 6-on, 1-off work schedule for Davi Alcolumbre, enemy of the people. Look here. Moraes orders investigation of the contents of Bolsonaro's lawyers' cell phones. The federal police pointed out incidental findings on the devices and requested a separate investigation. The prosecutor general's office supported it, supported Paraná to evaluate criminal hypotheses. It's not related to the jewelry case. Do you remember his cell phones? They were seized back then in that jewelry case and so on. The police found evidence of other crimes. They then asked Minister Alexandre de Moraes for permission to investigate. Minister Alexandre de Moraes consulted the Attorney General, said okay, and then Alexandre de Moraes authorized the opening of a specific police inquiry to investigate Frederico Wasef, former lawyer of Bolsonaro. This one, from what it looks like, is dirtier than a chicken coop floor, right, guys? You can pursue it and find something. And Moraes said to go after it, the federal police, so they're pursuing this case. Meanwhile, I just told you about Malu Gaspar, right? The journalist from Globo News who said that Davi Alcolumbre tried to ask Lula for help and now switched sides, that's right. The police found conversations between Daniel Borcaro and his advisors exactly to go after the journalist Malu Gaspar. Look, this mafia is very dangerous, guys. The federal police found a plan to monitor the journalist, according to seized messages. They were talking about monitoring her, that they had to stop her, to manipulate. To silence her, do you understand? This is mafia stuff. This is the work of the worst kind of criminal, dangerous, you see? That's why the police have to go after them, really. This is a mafia. Daniel Borcaro is a mafia. They have to get not only Daniel Borcaro, who's already in jail, and others, but they also have to get Daniel Borcaro's partners. And for me, I always tell you, this Pangare movie from Bolsonaro, for me, was used as a front and as a money laundering scheme. It even seems that the Bolsonaro family, through Flávio, who collected the money, and through Eduardo, who received it, were partners with Daniel Borcaro. You have to go after not only the head of the criminal organization, but everyone involved in this criminal organization. See, my dear? If it's not too hard, smash the like button, like, comment, and share. Because not here, buddy. Here's the thing. It's Lula winning for the 4th time in the first round, Flávio going downhill, and Michelle. You have to get out of this environment of misogyny where you are victims today, right? Get out, smash the button.